Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Retro Future Guy video. This is another build video that I'm doing with mostly Lego and then some arcade parts to create a joystick. In fact, the smallest joystick that I could make with all the buttons that I wanted to use on it, which is 17 buttons. It's basically got a 4 to 8 way adjustable joystick, of which there are a couple on the market. This is an older one from, I think, Ultra Stick that I had from way back when, and I just haven't used it for anything. So I figured I'd use it here. It then has 8 faceplate buttons, action buttons, all that you'd expect from a fighting stick, and then 2 pinball buttons on each of the left and the right side. So you've got your traditional flipper buttons and then your MagnaSafe or nudge buttons on both the left and the right side, and then 4 menu buttons or coin start digital plunger buttons on the front, and 1 additional exit button or whatever you want to do with it on the back. In fact, all the buttons on this you can really set in any kind of function that you want. So they may go in this, they may follow this form factor, but they are configurable to your heart's content. So here I'm basically trying to put together all those action buttons, and I would walk you through it, but it's a little crazy, and it's probably easier just to see it here in fast motion and then read the instructions that I will provide you in the description of this video to try and follow along with it, or to get the exact parts list that you need to order if you're going to recreate this on your own. So yeah, I think when I did the first build video, which was an all button controller, fighting style controller, I had said that I'm more of a joystick kind of guy. And truth be told, I am more of a full featured joystick than this one. So a video coming very soon is going to essentially be this controller, but certainly wider than this one. It's going to have the sort of 8 buttons all laid out horizontally to one another. I mean, not completely. They're still going to have the arc that I do here. But it's not going to have the 2 extra buttons sitting below the, I don't know, what do you call them, primary 6 ones? It's going to have them to the right side of those 6. And it's also going to have a trackball and a spinner and a second joystick so that you can play literally everything. But if you want the smallest kind of Lego controller, this is about as small as I could get it. Doing anything smaller than this would really compromise the stability of the faceplate sitting on top of the box. You'll see when I get to the box building portion of this that it actually is wide, sufficiently wide because of the 6 buttons and the joystick sitting on the faceplate on this one, that there's like 4 extra stud widths that sit in between the 2 base plates. And I don't love that, candidly, because of the fact that I feel like, again, it's a matter of stability. And so whereas any good fight stick you kind of want to be able to have on your lap, I think that this is probably going to be one that's better sitting on like a little lap desk or something like that, because the bottom of it is always going to be weakest if you're kind of pressing on the center of it, and because the base plates aren't completely flush with one another. I don't know. It's a little bit of an issue to me. But if you want the smallest possible Lego controller you can make that has all the buttons that you could ever need, it's going to be this one. So, figured I'd make it. Here we go. Putting, what is it? I think 8 across the top. Yeah. And so every row, in typical fashion, alternates. Staggers the bricks, and you end up having a 2x2 on the second, fourth, sixth. Like every other row is going to have a 2, and then 4s filling it in. Now you're seeing that I'm starting to leave space for where I know all of those buttons are going to kind of socket in. The other thing The reason that I started with the all button controller rather than this one is because I could not figure out a great way to stabilize the joystick using the kind of methods that I was doing here, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So because all of these bricks are stacked on top of one another and they're kind of laying down on their backs as opposed to studs facing up, it means that any vertical motion that you place on the joystick, if you don't have the pieces glued together, you don't have a wooden back to this thing, any vertical motion you have to the joystick is just going to completely immediately wrench the pieces apart. Horizontal motion is actually fine, but vertical just yeah, it really does a number on this kind of thing. So I really didn't want to glue the pieces together. I just didn't feel like, it's not a good value. If you like to change things as much as I do and experiment with different things with the bricks that you have, then glue is just not going to be the way to go. And I don't know. I mean, it's cool for the aesthetic and the nostalgia factor and all that to have a Lego shaped thing. But the second that you glue it together, it loses a little something, at least for me. And so the better alternative was to create a wooden backboard to this. And I am not a great woodworker and don't like getting wood dust all over everything. So I don't do a lot of it. I think I say that to cover up for the fact that I'm really, kind of bad at it. So I'll blame it on wood dust. Um, but I did do it for this. I needed to because if I put those, what do they call them? The Technique bricks or Technic bricks, the ones that have the holes in them, I found that if I space those things out just so, it actually works really well, and it'll change a bit depending on the exact kind of joystick you have because it's not universal in terms of how those screw holes go into it. So this is a particular kind of controller, but you may need to do some slight adjustment with your own. It may just mean a plate here or there that isn't in mine, and maybe one brick fewer because you're using a couple of plates instead to space it out properly. But it's definitely doable. I've done it with several different joysticks now that are all of differing sizes, and it works perfectly. Anyway, I switched over to making the back box because you saw I finished the faceplate, and I just, for no particular reason, I decided to go gray with all of the buttons on this one rather than white. And you can use whatever color you want in the instructions and the part list that I provide you with over to Bricklink so that you can create this if you'd like. It's very easy to just swap out any of the white pieces, which are going to be on the faceplate, for whatever color you want for your faceplate button rings, and then differentiate it from the base plate ones. You want them all one color? Great. Just order that. If you want to do them separately and make it your own, then absolutely do that as well. So so basically, these are the four faceplate or front side buttons, I should say, and I'm just going to go ahead and do all the buttons for all over this thing. Um, the way that I tend to do those front buttons when I'm wiring them up is assigning the buttons. Again, you can assign them to whatever you want. I tend to do the front leftmost one as a vertical nudge button for pinball, but you could absolutely change that to just being like an exit out of whatever emulator or program you're in, software you're in. Um, but the center ones are going to end up being your coin in and start buttons, or your option start buttons, depending on what kind of controller you're most familiar with using. But I always say kind of coin and start because I'm so used to using these things for emulation and MAME and retro games. So, and then the front rightmost one, which you now can't see because I've got the thing standing on its end, is your digital plunger button, again for pinball, since I've been doing so much of that. But I've now done the side flipper and MagnaSave slash left and right nudge buttons that are standing to the left and right of this, and I've done that back button, which is either your escape one, or if you get a controller that is able to be you're able to in software change it from being 4 to 8 way, like the ones that Glenn's Retro Show sells through Thunderstick, then that's a really, really good place to put just a 4 to 8 way switch button. They've got like a combination button that they sell that essentially has two halves of it that do different functions, and that is a wonderful way to switch between 4 and 8 way. As I said, I didn't do it here only because I had a joystick I was kind of trying to put to good use and get rid of, because I don't tend to use that one anymore. But figured it would be pretty perfect for this. So you can see that those 8x8 black plates are holding together the two gray base plates, but there is actually 4 studs worth of space between the left and right base plates. And I don't love that because of the fact that it necessarily means that if you grab it from the center of it, the base plates are going to pop up a little bit. The stick itself is completely stable. Like there is zero danger of that falling apart. But the base plates will kind of bow up if you press on the center of it, which means it's not the ultimate kind of lap sitting joystick. Truly, none of the ones that have a Lego base plate on them are, because that's such a thin piece of plastic. It does bow quite a bit. But I find them when you have two base plates that are sitting right next to one another and then secured by the thicker bricks, it tends to be, pretty stable. So any of these, I think, rather than use it directly on my lap, I prefer to have a lap desk with it sitting on top of that. It's just more comfortable anyway. So anyway, I'm putting the rim around the top, which obviously there's 2 pixels of width that sits inside of the wall that allows you to put the faceplate down on top of that. That's why I couldn't get it 4 pixels or 4 studs smaller than it is because of those plates that have to be there to hold it up. So if you can figure out a better way, let me know in the comments. You are going to see momentarily that after I'm done putting these corners on and putting the whatever those smoothing wrist rest pieces all around it, you're going to see that I start working with the wood. You'll just kind of see the before and after of it. Didn't want you to see the carnage of my garage. But essentially, I took the faceplate after I'd put it together in Lego and then just stenciled with a pencil inside those on top of the wood that I'd cut out to know exactly where the buttonholes were going to be, and just drew a dot in the exact center of each of those, and that's where I put my 30mm drill bit down, because 30mm is exactly the size that you need for 30mm arcade buttons, which is what I like to use. They're the bigger size ones, but probably the more typical ones. There's also 24s on some smaller joysticks, or all button fighting sticks. But you could see there that was the process of me drilling those out. You start on one side, you flip it over, and ultimately that leaves you with this, and you're able to drill the holes wherever you really need them for the joystick stabilization. As I said earlier, going through those Technic bricks, I think there's 2 1x10s there, if I remember correctly. And then you'll just need to screw those in, as you see me do here. As I say, it's going to take a little bit of doing on your part, because not all joysticks are going to have their buttonholes in the same place. So I would say measure twice and drill once to make sure that you're putting them in the right place, and not going to be sad that you've either drilled holes in your Lego bricks that aren't supposed to have them, or drilled extra holes in the wood that you know, I don't know, whatever you don't like having there. And that's it. After that, I just attached each of the buttons to them, each of the screws by hand. I didn't really feel like you needed a wrench to tighten them. It's plenty stable just like that. And then really you're just able to wire it up and slot it into place. I'll cover the specifics of the wiring in a different video because it's very, very dependent on the exact kind of board you have and the harness that you have. It's going to change the colors of the wires and a little bit about the way that they attach. So that's a different thing for a different video. But also that choosing the right board is the way that you can make sure that this will work with whatever system you want it to work with, whether it's a PC or a Switch or a PlayStation or an Xbox, whatever generation you have of that. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you want to see more, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.